Sisters marry easily. It is said that there was a prime minister named Mao Gong in Yi County. His family was originally from a lowly family and lived in poverty. His father often herded cattle for others. At that time, there was a family named Zhang in the county who had been officials for generations. And they had a new cemetery in the south of Dongshan. Someone was passing by and heard yelling from the tomb, "You should get out of here quickly. Don't always be here to pollute the nobleman's home." The man named Zhang didn't believe it when he heard about it. Then he was warned again and again in his dream, saying, "Your family's new cemetery was originally Mao Gong's cemetery. Why have you occupied it for so long?" From then on, unlucky things often happened to the Zhang family. Others advised him to move the tomb. Zhang followed the advice and moved the tomb. One day, Mao Gong's father went out to herd cattle and walked to the Zhang family's original cemetery. It suddenly started to rain heavily, so he ran to the abandoned tomb to take shelter from the rain. The rain fell harder and harder, and the torrential rain rushed into the tomb, filling it up, and Mao Gong's father was drowned inside. Mao Gong was still a child at that time. Mother went to see Mr. Zhang alone and begged for a small space to bury Mao Gong's father. The man named Zhang was very surprised when he found out their surnames. He went to the place where Mao's father drowned and found that he died exactly where the coffin should be. The man surnamed Zhang was even more surprised and asked Mao's father to be buried in this tomb. He also asked Mao's mother to take her son to visit. After the funeral, Mao's mother and her son came to Zhang's house to express their thanks. The man surnamed Zhang saw the Mao child and liked him very much. So he kept him at home, taught him to read, and treated him as his own child. He also proposed to marry his eldest daughter to him. Mao's mother was shocked and dared not agree. Zhang's wife said, "Now that I have said it, I will not change my mind midway." Mother Mao had no choice but to agree. However, the eldest daughter of the Zhang family looked down upon the Mao family extremely, and her words and expressions often showed resentment and shame. Occasionally, when someone mentioned the marriage, she would cover her ears. He often said to others, "Even if I die, I will not marry the son of a cattle herder." On the wedding day, the groom sat down at the banquet, the sedan chair, stopped outside the door, and the woman covered her face and cried against the wall. I urged her to dress up, but she refused to listen to advice. After a while, the groom stood up and asked to leave, and the drums played in unison, but she still kept crying with disheveled hair. The father asked his son-in-law to wait a moment and went to persuade his daughter in person. The daughter cried as if she didn't hear him. The father was furious and forced her to get into the sedan chair. The daughter started to cry even more, but the father was helpless. The servant came again to send a message. "The groom is leaving." The father hurriedly came out and said, "We haven't dressed up yet. Please wait a moment." So I ran into the house again to see my daughter, but couldn't stay when I got out. After procrastinating for a while, the matter became more urgent, and the eldest daughter did not change her mind after all. My father had no other choice, and was so anxious that he wanted to die. The second daughter was very dissatisfied with her sister's attitude and tried to persuade her. The elder sister said angrily, "Xiao Nizi, you also learn to talk too much. Why don't you marry him?" The younger sister said, "Our father did not promise me to Mao Lang at the beginning. If he promised me to Mao Lang, why don't you marry him?" Sister advises you to drive. When the father heard that the second daughter was happy, he secretly discussed with her mother to replace the eldest daughter with the second daughter. The mother asked the second daughter, "That unfilial girl is disobedient and now wants you to marry in place of your sister. Will you do it?" The second daughter said cheerfully, "Since my parents asked me to go, I will not refuse even if I run away to beg for food. Besides, how do you know that Mao Lang will be poor all his life and starve to death in the end?" Her parents were very happy after hearing what she said, so they dressed up her sister with her sister's dowry and hurriedly sent her away in a sedan chair. After passing the door, the couple was in harmony and treated each other with respect. It's just that the second daughter has always had thin hair, which makes Mao Gong a little dissatisfied. Later, Mr. Mao gradually heard about his sister's easy marriage. From then on, He was more grateful to her and regarded her as a close confidant. Not long after, Mr. Mao was selected as a scholar and went to take part in the provincial examination. He passed by Wang Shiren's shop on the way. The shop owner dreamed that the god said to him the night before, "Tomorrow Mao Jiyuan will come, and he will rescue you from danger in the future." So the innkeeper got up in the morning and paid special attention to the guests coming from the east. When he saw Mr. Mao, the owner of the shop was overjoyed. He prepared a sumptuous table of wine and food for free and told him the good omen in the dream. Mr. Mao was also very conceited and thought to himself, if he were to win the first prize in the imperial examination, his wife would be ridiculed by the nobles for her thin, bald hair. He should change his wife when he becomes rich. However, after the admission list was announced, Mao lost his name. He was in low spirits, walked heavily, and felt very depressed. Feeling ashamed and shameless to see the shop owner again, I had to take a detour home. 3 years later, Mao Gong went for another exam, and the owner of the shop still treated him as warmly as last time. Mao Gong said, "Your words did not come true that time. I am really sorry for your sincerity." The shop owner said, Chu Kai secretly wanted to change his wife, so he was expelled from the underworld and failed. It's not that my dream didn't work. Mao Gong was shocked and asked how he knew. The shop owner told him that he only found out after having another dream after that separation. After hearing this, Mr. Mao was frightened and regretful, as if he were a puppet. The shop owner said, "A scholar should love himself, and he will eventually be able to understand the world." Soon, Mr. Mao got the first place in the imperial examination. My wife's hair has also grown, and her shiny black bun adds to her beauty. The eldest daughter of the Zhang family married a wealthy family in the same village and was very arrogant. However, her husband was a lazy swinger, and his family gradually declined. Even the family property was sold out, and he was so poor that he could not even eat. I heard that my sister had become the wife of a civil servant, and I felt even more ashamed. Sometimes I meet my sister on the road and I quickly run away. Not long after, the husband of the eldest daughter of the Zhang family died, and the family became even more dilapidated. Soon, Mao Gong passed the Jinshi examination again. When the eldest daughter heard about it, she hated herself so much that she became angry and became a nun. When Mao Gong became prime minister and returned to his hometown, she forced nuns to go to Mao's house to ask questions, hoping to get something. The nun came to Mao's house, and Mrs. Mao gave her a lot of silk and satin, wrapping the silver in it. The nun didn't know this, so she took it back and gave it to the master. The master was disappointed and said angrily, "Give me some money and buy some firewood and rice. What's the use of giving me these things?" So he asked the nun to give it back. Mr. Mao and his wife were very confused. When they opened it and saw that the silver was still inside, they understood the meaning of returning it. Mao Gong took out the silver and said with a smile, "Your master can't even afford 100 taels of silver. How can you be lucky enough to marry an old minister like me?" Then he took 50 taels of silver and gave it to the nun and said, "Take it back and make a fortune. Your master's living expenses are too much. I'm afraid she won't be able to afford it because of her poor fortune." The nun went back and reported truthfully. The master was silent and sighed constantly. Think about what you have done in your life. You often reverse the good and bad. You have no control over what you pursue and what you avoid. Later, the owner of the store was arrested and imprisoned for the murder case. Mao Gong tried his best to explain, and he was released without charge.
Alright, this story has come to an end. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you.